Hey, how's it going, Warhammer World? This is Obsidian Anubis, and I'm back with another Ninth Age battle report. I know, it's about time, right? Sorry, my usual player has been out of commission for a while, so I've been just mainly doing a lot of painting during the weekend, so I haven't had a chance to do a battle report. But finally, last weekend, me and my opponent managed to do the third installment for the campaign for gold, and this is a Nightattack. So this is one of the battles set in the Lustria Warhammer uh, booklet. Um, Basically, the defender, which is the Empire player, has double the points as the attacker, which is the Lizardman player. And the Lizardman player can deploy all around the battlefield, and the Empire player deploys in the center. And the goal of the attacker is to cause damage to the defender. So in this case, we had 1,000 points for the attacker and 2,000 points for the defender, and my opponent, who was the Lizardman player, had to cause at least a quarter of my points in damage by the end of the fourth turn for the game to continue. So in this case, it'd be 500 points. So my opponent needed to do 500 points of damage to me by the time we got to the fourth turn. If they did not, it would be an automatic victory for the Empire. If they did, then it would be a victory for the Lizardman player, and we'd continue playing the next two turns. And every point after that I lost, I would lose in the next battle. So the next battle we're doing is going to be more or less an even match, regular battle line. And so I could potentially lose points for the next battle if this goes poorly for me. So again, this is Saurian Ancients versus the Empire of Sonstal. This is an Obsidian Anubis story. So let's go ahead and look at the battlefield and the armies. So here is how it was kind of deployed. So I deployed my entire army first, which is in the center there, and then my opponent deployed in counter to that, as you can see here. So if we look at the south side of the table, my opponent has a spearback, which you can't really see, but it is there. A group of 15 Saurus warriors with full command, and in that group is a Saurian veteran with a great weapon. He has no magic, just a great weapon. Next to that is a group of 10 Skink Braves. In the middle of the battlefield, my opponent has two groups of 10 Skink Braves on the left and the right. And then on the north side of this table, you can see that my opponent has 10, actually that says 10 Skink Braves. That should actually be 20 Skink Braves. Next to them is a Skink Priest, level 1 of Wilderness. There's a second Spearback, and then 3 Pterodon Riders. And then in the forest over there, there's 9 Stalkers. For magic, my opponent got the Beast Within, or went down to the Beast Within. I had a level 2 Fire Wizard, so I had the Raging Fire, Fireball, and Burning Ramparts. So if we look at my army, it's kind of all scrunched in here, so I'll try to do my best to point everything out. So in the north, I have a block of 25 pikemen with full command. So again, pikemen are an upgrade for this particular battle. It costs 2 points per pike. It gives you an extra attack So in addition to spears having a 3rd rank, they could have a 4th rank attack, or if they win Horde, 5 ranks attack. As well as if an opponent charges me, for the turn that they charge, the initiative is reduced to the same initiative as mine. So in this case, it'd be 3. Next to them is a group of 34 militia with full command. To the left of them is a group of 10 handgunners with my fire wizard. Below them is a group of 25 conquistadors with full command. So again, they are an upgrade for this particular campaign. So they are Imperial Guard, but instead of being able to take a great weapon for 2 points, they can take a pistol for 2 points. Below them is a group of 20 seasoned crossbowmen. And then to the right of them is another group of 10 handgunners. And then to finish off the circle, I have 25 seasoned halberdiers with full command. If we look at character-wise, I have 4 characters. So I have a level 2 Wizard of Fire. In the group of conquistadors, I have a captain. He has the 1+ armor. I don't remember what it is in the book, but it's just the armor in the Empire core book that gives him a 1-up armor save. In the seasoned soldiers, I have 2 characters. I have an Inquisitor with the Ring of Fire and a brace of pistols. And then you can kind of see the mace from the captain. He's in the top right corner of the unit. He is my marshal, so he is the general for this army. He has Hammer of the Witches, or Witch, and Talisman of Greater Shielding. So with this deployment, I deployed my entire army first. My opponent then deployed the army. And then on a 6+, I would take the first turn, but I couldn't do anything other than move. I couldn't cast spells or shoot. And then my opponent, if I rolled anything less than a 6, my opponent would go first. And as luck would have it, I actually rolled a 6, so I took the first turn. So because this is a Nightattack, how that goes throughout the game is every turn you roll an artillery die, so the dice that go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and misfire, and you times that by 3, and that's how far you can see in inches through the game. So for the first turn, I actually forgot to roll, but it didn't matter because I could only move anyways. I couldn't shoot, I couldn't cast magic. So the only movement I did was just move my rangers a little bit closer to my opponent. With this campaign, we were also playing with encounters, which were part of the Lustria book. So I went ahead and used an encounter, which was quicksand. So I went ahead and put it on. So quicksand, for those of you who don't know, you can read it here. So if you want to pause, you can look at the video. But pretty much, the better armor save you have, the worse chance you have of saving. So it's basically like a metal shifting attack. So if you pass an armor save, you die, and if you fail an armor save, you're fine. So I put it on the Sars Warriors. Unfortunately, Scaly Skin doesn't count because that's natural. So these guys only had shields, so they only failed if they rolled a 6. My opponent did happen to fail 2, so I managed to kill 2 of them with the first encounter, so that worked all right. That brings us to Saurian Ancient turn 1. So for movement, my opponent moved up, as you can see here. You can see the artillery dice in the top right of this corner. That is a 10. So my opponent could see 30 inches this turn, which basically said that they could see anything they needed to see. And then this is the other flank. You can see my opponent is moving up here. In Magic Phase, my opponent got 5 power dice. Sorry about the blurry picture. And managed to get the Beast Within off on the group of 20 skinks, just in case I wanted to charge them next turn. For encounters, my opponent rolled All Is Well, and that allows you to remove a counter. So my opponent just removed the quicksand I had put in last turn. In shooting, my opponent killed off 3 of my Imperial Rangers, but luckily they did pass the panic test. And then I just took a picture overall of wounds I sustained. So you can see I lost 1 halberdier, 1 pikeman, a couple militia, and a couple conquistadors. But overall, not too bad. Luckily, I managed to withstand most of the shooting this turn. So that brings us to Empire Sansal turn 2, and I rolled a 2. So that means I could only see 6 inches this turn. So that, unfortunately, didn't allow me to do pretty much anything. The only movement I did was I moved my archers closer towards the spearback, and that brought them within 6 inches. So they could see that, but the rest of my army couldn't see anything my opponent had. In the encounter phase, I rolled a Carnivorous Plant. This is a single attack, D3 strength 4 hits. I put it on the spearback, which my archers were going to shoot at, and I managed to put 1 wound on it, which was a good thing because my archer shot and did nothing. So that brings us to Saurian Ancient turn 2. So my opponent rolled a 6, so that means that they could see 18 inches this turn, so that pretty much allowed them to see anything they needed to see. I don't have a picture of movement, but for magic, my opponent got 10 power dice, but with level 1 Wizard of Wilderness, I think they cast... The Skink also has the Ring of Fire. I think they cast the Ring of Fire this turn and burned a couple Conquistadors. I dispelled the Beast Within. Here's what the southern edge of the board looks like. You can see my opponent's kind of moving up and moving the spearback away from the Carnivorous Plant. And then over here on the north side, you can see my opponent's kind of moving in as well. It looks like my opponent did get the Beast Within off on these guys, excuse me. Again, in shooting, I just took a picture at the end of shooting combat so you could see where I sustained my troops. So I lost a couple crossbowmen, a couple gunmen, a couple halberdiers, pikemen, militia, and conquistadors. So overall I took damage everywhere, but nothing specifically took damage. So that brings us to Empire Sansal turn 3. And finally, the clouds have moved out of the way of the moon. My guys can see stuff, so let's get some action done. So first thing I did is I broke my circle. So I charged my pikemen into this group of skinks. My opponent elected to stand and shoot, because if they fled, they would just flee off the board. My militia charged the stalkers. Unfortunately, they failed their save, or they failed their charge. And then I charged my conquistadors actually into my opponent's 20 skinks. My opponent chose to fled, so then I redirected into the spearback, which stand and shot. In Magic Phase, because I could finally do magic, I rolled 6 power dice. I attempted to cast Fireball, but my opponent dispelled it, and I think I just failed casting the Ruby Ring, which is what my Inquisitor had. So overall, magic was a bust. In counters, I rolled Quicksand again, so I didn't take a picture of it, but I put the Quicksand back on the Saurus Warriors. Unfortunately, I think my opponent only failed 1 this turn, so only 1 guy died. In close combat, my Conquistadors made quick work of the spearback and just turned to face the running away skinks. And my pikeman easily wiped out, or I think broke, and elected not to pursue the skinks over here and just turned to face, as you can see here. And other than that, that was the end of the Empire of Sunstar turn. So that brings us to Scion Ancient turn 3. So my opponent rolled a 10, so still 30 inches, so the clouds were still not in the way of the moon. So my opponent charged the Star Warriors into my Halberdier. I did a stand and shoot reaction with my attachment. Unfortunately, my opponent did rally the skinks, but with cold-blooded that usually happens. And then I forgot to mention last turn I shot at the Pteranodons and killed 2, so my opponent used the third one here to chaff up my Conquistadors. In Magic Phase, my opponent got 12 Power Dice, and this is the turn where I think my opponent managed to cast the Ruby Ring, and I managed to dispel the Beast Within. Yeah, so here's what the table looks like as a whole. My archers are still slowly trying to whittle that spearback down in the south, but have yet to do anything. So, you know, they're getting the points done, I'm sure, somewhere. Yeah, so Fireball. So, yeah, my opponent cast Fireball on my Conquistadors. I think killed 2 of them, but other than that, nothing. In the encounter phase, my opponent rolled a 9, which is a Lashworm attack. The Lashworm attack is a single strength 6 hit. This attacked my Conquistadors, and I believe killed 1. I might have passed my armor save, I don't remember. In close combat, I lost quite a few Halberdiermen, but I did manage to kill a couple of my opponent's Star Warriors, and that was mainly from the Halberdiersmen themselves. The Inquisitor and the Marshal both whiffed on their attacks. It was very sad. I was very disappointed with both of them. So they kind of deserve to die, but it's okay. We'll see if they can rally themselves next turn. Luckily, I was steadfast and passed my break test. So that brings us to Empire of Sonsdal, turn 4. So for this turn, unfortunately, once more, the clouds moved in front of the moon, so I could see very little. So instead of charging my pikemen, because I can no longer see the skinks, I just moved my pikemen towards the skinks, which I can now see, so next turn I could charge. I pivoted my militia so that the skink stalkers were on the front arc, and then I charged my Conquistadors into my opponent's chaff, Pteranodon. In the encounter phase, I rolled an 11, which is Quicksand again. I put this on the 20 skinks that had rallied the previous turn, and I didn't take a picture, but I think I killed like 1 or 2, because they also had shields, so they fell on a 6. So I killed a couple, but meh. These guys finally managed to put both wounds, the remaining 2 wounds, on the spearback and wipe out the spearback, which was fantastic. And then close combat over here, you can see I easily wiped out my opponent's chaff and just kind of pivoted. And that trap-looking thing is the trap on the skinks is the quicksand, and the weird round thing on my Conquistadors is the lashworm, which looks like it killed 1 guy, because you can see 1 guy's knocked over there. In close combat, I managed to kill 3 of my opponents. I believed his champion, or his character, and my character were in a challenge. They both played patty fingers with each other and did nothing to each other. I lost another rank or so of Halberdiermen, but I was still steadfast and passed. So that moves us to Scion Ancient turn 4. So my opponent rolled a 6, which allowed them to see pretty much what they needed to see. And this is just kind of what the board looks like at the moment. My opponent moved the stalkers once more to the side of my militia, kind of moved the other skinks around. In Magic Phase, rolled 2 power dice, and I attempted to cast either the ring. I think they attempted to cast the ring and rolled like 2 1s or something. My opponent got nothing off this turn. For encounters, my opponent rolled 8, which was a carnivorous plant, which I think also went on my Conquistadors. My opponent really doesn't like my Conquistadors, but I can't really blame them. They are pretty tough. In shooting, my opponent killed 5 of my gunmen. Luckily, they did pass their panic test. And then I lost 8 of my militia from the stalkers. That hurt. These guys, the good chaff, and well, chaff is the wrong word. These guys make good soldiers because they'll fast, and they usually empires die in droves anyways, so the amount of armor they have is inconsequential. But when they're being shot at, armor does help, and without armor, it hurt to lose these guys. But luckily, they did pass the panic test. In close combat, once more, all characters were locked in a challenge. They played patty fingers with each other again and did nothing to each other. I killed 2 of my opponent. My opponent killed 5 of mine, but luckily I was still had 1 rank on my opponent, so I was still steadfast and passed. And so this is what the battlefield looks like at the end of turn 4. So this is when we calculated points to see if my opponent had done 1/4 points. And as you can see, my opponent got half points for the 3 gunmen, so that was like 45 points, and half points for the halberdiers, which was like 100 and something points. But that maxed out of just under 200 points. So my opponent did not do 1/4, so it was an automatic victory to my empire. So this Saurian player basically called a retreat. All the troops vanished back into the woods and left my camp alone after that. So they didn't cause enough damage to impede me for the next battle. So the next battle will be basically an even fight for both of us. So that's all I have here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Always hit like and subscribe if you can. I'll try to get the next video up sooner. I think my opponent's ready for a more even match. At the end of this campaign, at the end of this battle, my opponent was a little unhappy that they had performed poorly, but I had to remind them that for the past 3 battles, they've had less troops than I have. So that it hasn't really been a fair representation. So for the next battle, it would be much more of a standard 9th Age battle. But yeah, if you guys have any comments, concerns, questions, if I did anything wrong, which I'm not sure if I did, I probably did something wrong, but we also have a few house rules which kind of vary things a little bit. Other than that, yeah, if you guys could hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Game on!